Hey everyone, my name is Angelo and today is November 1st, and today we are going to be talking about how do we sustain communities, businesses, or NFTs after a launch. We've talked primarily a lot about what we expect at launch time, and we've been dissecting NFTs. Now we're going to start looking at post-launch of NFTs because I think we can take the NFT world and make it work for us in communities and business, because I think there's an extra element to NFTs that communities and businesses don't have to deal with. So with that, I do want to do some housekeeping, meaning I have some updates for you. So I've realized that it might be a little confusing what I've been doing, and the whole this podcast or YouTube videos are starting to morph into something, and I kind of saw that it was more combining people who want to get into NFT projects and those who want to create NFT projects, businesses, or communities. And I wanted to separate them because I think they're totally different, even though you kind of need to know both. Like, how can you create a community if you don't know what your community is thinking? And how can you buy into an NFT project if you don't understand what should be there, what you should be looking for as a buyer? So when I start talking about NFT projects, the actual details of the project itself, I'm going to keep that separate, like a separate podcast and video on those, versus the analysis of the project itself from a building perspective. So I'm going to try to rip the two apart, and please bear with me as I walk through this. This is my first time doing something like this, so I'm still learning. So that's that. Um, let's see. And in the end, I just hope that whatever happens, that I can deliver value to who's ever paying attention to this. And I do want to thank you for taking the time to do that. So before we get into today's topic, next week I will have a project I review. I'm still in the middle of it, and that's sort of like why I'm doing this special here. So I hope by the end of next week, next Monday, I'll have a project ready for you to look at. Um, but let's talk about the disclaimer here. Always love to talk about the disclaimer. So, all opinions and information presented in this blog or vlog, podcast, however medium you're using to get this information is based on my research and my standards that I personally have set for projects. This does not mean that projects are good or bad, or that they will fail or succeed. I'm usually not compensated or sponsored by any of the projects. Today is not about a project, so there's no sponsorship here today, but there will be Ethereum giveaway. Note that investing, trading, and participating in NFTs are speculative in nature, and you should not use this blog as financial advice. Also note that by the time you read this, some information about the project, or even my opinion, may have changed. So to get updated information, please keep updated on the episodes that I release. And also, if it's about a project, please go check out that project and ask the dev team the information to see if it's changed. Please do your own research. And today is more of a theoretical things that I've been pondering. And as I start researching and getting into a lot of projects, a lot of things have been clear to me, or at least opening up my eyes. And I wanted to share that because when we talk about a launch, we talk about 5 things. We talk about transparency, we talk about the leadership, community. We also talk about the utility and the marketing. And I believe this is the same for all, no matter if you're building a community, a business, or an NFT project. I believe those things are and should be in place. And that's how you know whether or not you're ending up in a good project, or at least there's great potential that this is a project that's not going to be fraudulent, that there's people who are really trying to make this work. But there's a big difference between people making projects wanting to work and actually making them work. But from an investor perspective, I think we need to understand the dynamics that NFT projects are up against, that maybe businesses and communities are not up against, but there is still some things that need to be taken into consideration when you're looking at it. And what I like to do is I kind of like the BI triangle that Robert Kiyosaki preaches in his stuff. At least back when I was following him. I don't know if he's still doing that, but I find that very useful in many different situations. So I keep referring to that when I'm going through it. So I'm only going to touch on some of the aspects. Maybe this will become a big podcast that I'm going to chop up into many different pieces, because I don't want you to sit here for an hour and listen to me spurt, but I want to just roll it off as things come to me. So I'm actually going to pull up a BI triangle in front of me here as we talk about it. And I'm going to put, if you're listening to me, I will explain it the best I can. And if you're watching this, of course, I'll put that somewhere so you can see it. So let's talk about the BI triangle. So if we were to look at the BI triangle, we have, it's a triangle, and on the outside are three sections that you could say outline the triangle. And on one side you have team, on the other side you have leadership, and at the bottom you have mission. And then going in the middle of the triangle, you have kind of like cascading to the point, starting at the bottom: cash flow, communications, systems, legal, and product. So we're going to try to go through each one. And how does that relate to NFT projects, businesses, and communication? And how can we use that to determine whether a project is going to succeed or not? And again, I like NFT projects, and I believe businesses and communities should be shifting over to this type of concept, because this is a model that really can generate a lot of good in your business or community, because you're interacting right with your community. And some say, well, how can I do that if I'm running a multi-billion company or something like that? All I have to say is that if you're looking for a model, I would say check out VeeFriends, and Gary Vee is doing a great job in keeping up with all the projects that he has going on, including his NFT project, VeeFriends. So if he can do that at scale with, I think we're over 200 people that are interacting on the Discord, but you need the full triangle to make that happen. So let's talk about it. Leadership. We've talked about it before. Leadership needs to be consistent, in my opinion. When they start making shifty changes, then people get shifty. But in an NFT project, that might not be a bad thing. And I'll get into that very soon, why I think that's not a bad thing for an NFT project. Then you have your mission, of course. What are we trying to accomplish here? Like, what's the point? At the end of the day, why am I showing up to VeeFriends or any other project? Like, what is the whole point? Is it for me as an individual to create relationships, to create money? What is it? And then what is the leadership's mission? Like, what is their purpose for creating this? Is it for them just to create money? Is it for them to connect? Is it just, a check off their list of things that they were able to do? Like, understanding their why. Like, why did they create this community? Why didn't they just join another one? Why do they decide? Do they have something that they want to express and they're hoping people show up? So mission is really important, because understanding what the true nature is of this is important. Like Gary Vee on VeeFriends does not joke around. He makes it very clear that his whole purpose is to build IP. That's his mission. He wants to build IP, and as holders, we support him to that. And he's created an environment that goes beyond just the normal, hey, I'm here the community is working together outside of the community that he's interacting. It's hard to explain. Like on Discord is where we all get together, but outside of Discord, we are creating relationships and connections that go beyond VFriends. We're not just about VFriends. We're about creating things for us with the connections with VFriends. So it goes beyond just that. And then the team. How good is the team that you put in there? You need a team. You can't be everywhere at once because then you can't do everything at once. It's really hard to run a business by yourself. And to be honest, I don't know a successful leader, a successful team, or yeah, even a team that doesn't have a good team. Like you think about sports teams, there's a team there. It's not just one individual, ruling the roost. Everybody's kind of, working together. Each person has their part in the whole program. And that's no different than any other project or community. You need a team to be there. If you're the leader, you're taking care of the mission, you're taking care of the team, you're taking care of the money, communications, all those things, your community is not going to be as productive and as fast growing as any other project or community out there. And that leads us to cash flow because I have a couple of things that I like to talk about. So prior to launch, I have a whole new video I'm going to talk about that. I know I'm deviating, but the approach to I want to do separate because there's so many things that are floating through my mind that I want to get out there, but one thing at a time, right? Okay, so today, let's talk about cash flow because that's the next thing. So we've talked about the outside. We've talked about the mission, the leadership, being transparent in launching. They still need to be transparent. I talked about why leadership should be shaky, and that's about to come up why. And then you have the team that's supporting everything, keeping everything together. Now that we've talked about the outside of the BI triangle, now we're going to talk about cash flow. Cash flow for every business, for every community, for every NFT project, you need cash flow. Without cash, you can't do things for the community unless the community is just there to hang out and just have some fun. So when we talk about cash flow, there's two types of cash flow in a hybrid. You have your one-time purchase, and then you have your routine purchase, meaning like you keep purchasing over and over again. So that would be like a subscription versus going out there. And I would consider buying a car a one-time purchase. You're not doing it frequently like you would like a cellular plan. So those are the two types, in my opinion. You can have hybrids of that. You could have like a one-time purchase that has a perk that has something that you have to update regularly. But when we talk about NFT projects and cash flow, and I'm probably going to stay here a lot in this cash flow portion. When we think about cash flow, most NFT projects do a drop. And they sell typically 10,000, and there's variants of that, but they sell 10,000 of these tokens. And we talk about diamond hands versus paper hands. And when it comes to cash flow, you have to understand that once everybody buys that drop, 10,000 tokens, whatever the total amount that they get, is probably about $1 million or more. And that's what they have to spend. And let's go to a diamond hand perspective. And diamond hand, if you're not sure what that means, diamond hand means that you buy and hold and you're keeping on to that token. And when we call somebody paper hands, it means that they're only there for a short term and they're just going to sell to make a profit. So you have the two different scenarios. Now, as an NFT, for businesses and communities, this is great. You need to figure out how to get cash flow in to sustain whatever you're doing. And this is how NFT projects, I think, are getting into trouble, and that they need to think of not so much diamond hands, and they're probably not thinking that, but in your mind, they want people to hold on, but they need to find this balance, right? Because let's say that everybody purchases 10,000, they sell out, and everybody holds, not one person sells. They have their money. Now they're going to go build the roadmap, the utility, and they're going to go execute that. At some point, they're either going to have to do another drop, or they have to get secondary sales. And they can't do a drop right away, because if they do a drop and ask you for more money, you're going to be like, why am I here just dishing out more money? Their best bet is the secondary market, where they get the royalties, where they build those in, because that's where they sustain the market. But the dilemma is, if projects have diamond hands, people are holding on to their tokens, there's no secondary market. So they need turnover, and they need the community to turn over in order to sustain the project to keep on going. Because if not, as soon as those funds dry up, then there's nothing left for the community. So what the community is left to do is either create something outside or go to a new project. And what I think you will see is that a lot of projects, this is why they're going to go to zero, is that they need enough secondary sales in order to keep up with the future of their project. If they're relying on secondary sales at the very beginning in order to sustain their project, they're probably in trouble. Or they need to figure out a way to not only create liquidation within the community, but they have to learn to create, and this is where communications comes in, marketing to get more people in. So they're balancing this thing, and this is why a team's important, because there's a lot of things that need to happen. Because once the launch goes, you have to start executing the roadmap. You have to do that, or people are going to leave. But you can't do it so perfectly that everybody wants to stay, because you want that turnover, unless you expect to do a drop. And it all depends on the strategy. But if these folks don't know how to run a business, and they're not thinking about the cash flow and thinking about the future and how much money they actually need, and this is where I get sketchy when projects are sort of like developing on the go. Like, they haven't set everything up. They're like, well, we're going to think about the merch. Well, shouldn't you already know how much you're going to spend on merch? Shouldn't you already know how much you're going to spend on things, or have a general idea of what it's going to cost you? Like, I don't want to give you my money and then you're figuring things out as we go, because then I'm your guinea pig. I'm your guinea pig money. And this is why VeeFriends is successful in my mind, is that Gary probably already knows what he's doing with the money, or at least he has an understand, okay, this is how much capital I need, this is what I'm going to go do. And he's successful with businesses, so we know he has a track record. But some of these other projects that don't have a track record, and they're planning and they're doing things 2 to 3 weeks before launch, and they're still working on things, I personally get a little hesitant. Not that I don't think that they're going to be successful or anything, but it's like, for me, you should have everything planned out, and then once everything's planned out, you go and execute, and then you adjust a few things because the community wants this or the community wants that. But the whole idea is you got to keep the cash flowing in. And so you can't have your community holding tokens, and at the same time you have to get more people to come in. And as people come in, this is where the community comes important, because you have to have the community supporting new people coming in as well as the team, because the community is going to decide whether they're going to sell or buy. But the leadership now, before I said it was all about the community, the leadership needs to determine the fluctuation that they need within the community to get the secondary sales that they need, or they need to project a second drop or a third and a fourth to keep the project going. But if I already invest $300 or something like that, then that's my membership now to the community. Now you want another drop, is this worth another membership? Because that's what we're paying for, right? When we pay money, we're looking at a membership. If where people are paying us money, that's their membership to get into our projects, and we need to understand what are we going to spend our money on, how much is it going to cost, how much secondary sales do I need, and how much turnover do I need in order to realize that. Because if I don't understand that, then I'm going to be in trouble and my project is going to start crashing. And if you noticed why Robert Kiyosaki puts cash flow at the very bottom, it's because without the cash inflowing into the NFT project, then the project will die because there's nothing it can give it. Now, the unique thing about VFriends is that even if the project died, we've built such a big community that we're working with each other outside. It brings us together. VFriends brings us together, but we're also working on things outside that connects us in a way with each other that if VFriends went to zero and failed, one, we believe in the leadership, so we know Gary will figure out something out, but we also believe in each other, and we work with each other outside of VFriends, which is amazing. So that's another part of it. So when we talk about marketing, as the development group is in leadership is rolling out the roadmap, they need to be thinking about more cash flow. They need to be thinking about how do we get the money into us, and then how do we drive people to purchase it? Because even if you were to get people to leave and put their things up for sale, you need people to buy, and they have to buy in, and then they have to see, what is this worth? Like, what am I buying? And it's an interesting dynamic, whereas in a business, you can just set, because you have the supply, like it's understood that I'm going to buy another car. It's understood that I'm going to be getting routine payments on my bills for my cell plan. So, but on an NFT project, it's not quite clear yet what the objective is. Is this going to be like every year I have to buy a new drop? Is it every 5 years? Is it whenever the community runs out of money, then we figure out that we need to do a drop? That part to me is really interesting that I'm going to start diving into projects on, because I need to understand that portion of it. And as builders of the communities, businesses, and NFT projects, we need to understand that if we want to sustain it. Because if we have control over the communications and the cash flows, then we are setting ourselves up for a good long-term project that will sustain. Then we move to systems. Systems is just the way we get things done. If we have to manually do everything and we're slow, and let's say we're paying people to do things, then our money's going to get eaten up quicker, and we're not going to be as flexible and quick as we need to be. So having proper systems in place to get the things we need to get done is important. And that, I think, may be known and may not be known. But if somebody's trying to, let's say we have one leader, no team, or a very small team, and they're trying to run around doing everything, and they don't have a system for it, and let's say their community is going in the right direction and they're growing and people are buying, eventually, if they don't have good systems in place, things are going to start slowing down, and they're going to become the bottleneck, is what we call in lean manufacturing and lean business, is that we're going to create bottlenecks, and the leader is the bottleneck. And if anything, the leader is supposed to be driving the mission with the team and getting everybody moving in the right direction. But if they're too much into the game, meaning they're trying to operate everything, it gets a little bit more difficult unless they have people that they need to think and move and be able to make decisions and lead us in the right direction. But if they're getting bogged down with everything, then everything relies on the leader. And if the leader is the bottleneck, then we can end up seeing some problems, which then will create implosion on the project. Legal. We do not talk about this enough in the NFT world. We take it for granted. There are some projects that I've seen that do very well, but there are some projects that aren't taking the right precautions. And that doesn't mean that we don't buy into them or whatever, but from a longevity perspective, and as we get into these projects, what we're going to see is, especially in the US, we're a very litigious country. And as soon as people find out that there's lots of money there and they can start finding loopholes in the system or whatever, they're going to come after these NFT projects. And having the proper legal structure, proper legal jargon in the project is going to be important. So all these projects, most of them don't set up an LLC or C Corp or whatever. It's more like a sole proprietorship. And if somebody goes to sue that company or that person, there's not anything there to protect them or the person or the project in your investment in the project if you're investing in it. So having those protections in there, copyright laws, LLC laws, privacy laws, all those things need to be in place. And a lot of people don't look into that, and something could go wrong, and then you are at risk. I mean, technically speaking, right now, it's known but not said what you can do with an NFT. But unless it's written down somewhere, and I prefer things to be written into the contract itself so it sits on the blockchain, so it's solid, or at least on a website so that it's there, but people can change websites. But if you could put it on the blockchain, on that contract, things become solidified, it's known, it can't be altered, and it is what it is. And then you can take that to court because documentation and litigation is important. And then you have the product itself, the utility, the token. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and a lot of projects are going to hate me for this, but if we think about what we are getting, and everything's new, but I think this is another reason why projects are going to drop down in value, is because if you actually think about what you're getting, like they say merch. I could go out there, draw a picture, I can copy something. I don't actually need the token to go out there and put an NFT on a shirt. I just can't sell it. People will say, well, you don't have the rights to that. You don't own the token. But, we don't own the rights to anything. And yet we can go out there and create whatever we want. We just can't make money from it. And so I look at these projects, and then once you buy into the project, you go into it, and let's say the drop already happened. I come into it, usually 2 weeks within, maybe even further, it's dropped from the mint price. So the people who sustained it have these tokens. But then you think about the person that comes in, and they can get into the community for free, right? And then they may not get access to the utility, but usually there's free drops. So maybe they'll get a free token, maybe not. But they can wait for the prices to drop. And if the project starts imploding and the price starts dropping, or the community doesn't see the value in there anymore, someone can come in, get it cheaper. And I start thinking, okay, if I were to strip away the NFT portion of it, if I were to take the digital art away from it, and somebody were to offer me what this person's offering, how much would I really pay for that in the real world? Right now it's all hype. NFTs are all hype and everything, and that's why I believe the prices are really high. But would you pay to join a community for that price? One, you can join the community for free. Nobody's charging you for the community. But the things that they're offering within the utility, would you really pay $300? Would you really pay $400 for that? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. And for me, I personally have never been into digital art, although I now appreciate it. I appreciate the work that goes into it, and I appreciate the the artistic point of it. But before NFTs, I never bought digital art. I never bought art. So if somebody, and that's how I kind of approach things is, okay, strip away the art. I do believe that artists should get the value that they deserve. Is the art that I'm getting plus the utility worth what I'm going to get back? And if you think about it, a lot of things are, you get entered for a raffle for Ethereum, a token. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. You're entered in for this, you're entered in for that, but there's no like, you're going to get this. There's some of that, but, or now because you have the token, you have access to this to go buy this. To me, that's kind of weak. Like if I go into a running club, like a running club in my local community, I pay my dues. It's nothing close to that, and it's for the year. It's not even close to $300. Maybe it's grown because I haven't been in a club for a while, but I get I get what I need, and then I go to the races, and yes, I have to enter the races, but I'm part of a team, but I enter the races that I want to, and I purchase it. But to sustain the team, this is what they need. And it's nothing like that, like $300, at least back in the day. And as we create NFT projects, I think we need to keep that in mind. Because, and here's the other thing, from a purchaser's perspective, we want things to go to the moon. The NFT development team does not care whether it goes to the moon. Yes, they get more money on the percentages of Ethereum, but the higher it goes up, either you're hitting a different market. So if something now costs $3,000 to get into, and you take 2% of that, which is somewhere around what typical projects do, you're talking $60. And that's not a lot of money. So, but to get in is a lot. So what you're seeing, what the dilemma is as a project development team, yeah, you want it to go up, and yeah, you get more money, but let's face it, the higher the project becomes, the less amount of people will be able to purchase. So you want it to go up and down to create that fluctuation as a developer, but as a purchaser, you want it to go straight up because that's your investment money. You want to know, and that's why you need to understand why you're getting into something like this. Because if you're looking for an investment versus the community or both, you need to make that decision. But as developers, we kind of need the price to kind of fluctuate. And so there's many different perspectives of how to approach this. And from my perspective, what's interesting to me is what's the right price. And for me, I like to go to the real world and maybe place a little markup for the art if I have art there. But other than that, if I were to go to the real world, because eventually that's what we want, right? We want people to come into the real world. If and this is why I think some people think we're a little crazy in the NFT world. They look at our digital art and they're like, "What'd you pay for that?" And you say, "Well, I paid $300 to $400, maybe even more." And they're like, "For the art?" And you're like, "Well, the utility behind it." And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. What do you get?" "Well, I get entered in for a raffle for maybe some Ethereum." "Okay, so it's not guaranteed." "No." "I get entered for a free token." "Oh, but it's not guaranteed, is it?" "No." "Okay, you get entered for, you have access to merch and you can put your own token there. Okay, but do you get the free shirt and they're going to ship it to you? No, you have to buy it on your own and you have to go get it. Okay, so what am I getting? What are you getting for $400? You get mainly the digital art and the hope for something. So so these are the things that I'm thinking about. I haven't solidified my thoughts on this, but this is where I'm thinking and this is where I'm leading to. What does it take to sustain a project? And if we want more people, if I were to tell somebody I paid $60 for something, people would be more inclined to join NFTs. But if I told them that I paid $400, $500, and that's the pitch that I gave them, it's kind of like, eh. And then some people will say, well, and then don't even get into the gas fees. Well, then, in some cases, you end up paying double because that was just for the gas fee. So you pay $400 and then you pay another $200 for gas fees, and this thing costs you $600. Then to sell it costs you another whatever. And I think this is where, I shouldn't say projects will go to zero. I think projects will sustain as long as they take care of their cash flow and marketing and roll out the roadmap and keep things rolling. But I think we need to get a little bit more realistic on the prices that we're charging for these projects, because in my own community, that's what I do. I look at what it costs to go out there and do a virtual race, a 5K. I'm not going out there, and even though I'm creating an NFT for it, I'm not creating an NFT for thousands, even hundreds of dollars. I say, well, if I'm going to go run a race and it costs me $25 to $30 and I get a medal and a t-shirt, I need to deliver that. I'm not going to charge people $500 because it's an NFT. Not many people are going to join. Not that many people are joining anyways, but not many people are going to join if I'm charging them for $500. And maybe they will at first, but if I'm looking to get people to move over, because the market is the market. I mean, we're already in there. We're trickling in. People are trickling into the NFT world. But in order to get the masses to come over, like to join us, it needs to be realistic. We're the crazy ones. We're out there. We're willing to put in $400 to $500 to see what this thing's all about, to learn and all that stuff. But if we were to tell somebody, the normal person out there, what we're doing, and we do, they're looking at us strange, because they're not going to do that. There's just some people who are just not at that cutting edge level, and they're going to be like, yeah, I may pay $60 for that, with the expectation that you're going to deliver the shirt to me, with the expectation that I will get an extra NFT because you're going to give me 50% off, because that's what we do in the real world. And that's what people are looking for, real world working here. We're in a real world, but we're in the fictitious place. We're in the fantasy zone is what I'm going to call it. And it's okay. It's fine. It's part of the movement, the how these things develop. Everything is expensive at first, and then as people come over, it becomes cheaper and cheaper, because that's what's going to happen. Right now, all these projects are going to start diving, and we're paying higher price for them right now, and then the market comes in, and then they see that this one project that I bought at 0.09 is now only worth 0.01 or 0.009. And then they're going to say, oh, that's more realistic. I'm going to buy that, and I get this token, and maybe I get another token, maybe not, whatever. But I think as we build utility, we need something more concrete there when we're offering our products, and we have to look at the real world examples and move them in here. Of course, right now we're in the experimental phase still, so lots of things are happening, and we get away with whatever we're getting away with until we can't. And so, yeah, I don't expect projects to all of a sudden be like, oh, yeah, Angelo's right, and we got to go do this now. But I caution people who go into buying into these projects and people who are building projects, if you're looking for sustained progress, keeping things at 400, people are going to get bitter when it drops, $400 or zero point 0 whatever, zero point 0.01 ETH or zero point 0.1 ETH, whatever it is. As things drop, people become bitter. And you don't want bitterness in your community. You don't want bitterness at your business or anything like that. You want people, when they make that purchase, to feel good. And when they feel good, they're going to start spreading the word. And if they start spreading the word, then they do the marketing for you. If you have to go chase people to come in to the community, then you're doing something wrong somewhere in the BI triangle. And that's where I wanted to go today. So I have a lot more to say. That just was spitball out of my mouth, and hopefully this was value to you. So here's how you get your Ethereum for your raffle of your Ethereum or giveaway. So it's going to be 0.015 Ethereum as usual. You have to respond by Friday. This Friday, which is what is this Friday? This Friday's the 5th. So by November 5th, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I want you to answer this question, which is, what are the parts of the BI triangle? So I talked about the different parts near the beginning. So what are the parts of the BI triangle, and which one is the one? Well, that's probably not a fair question because I didn't specifically say it. But what are the parts of the BI triangle? That's your question. Respond to me on Twitter. I'll put the link in the descriptions, and then you can go to my Twitter, direct message me the parts of the BI triangle. All right, so that's it for today. How long did I talk for today? I don't even know. 42 minutes. So I think I'm going to keep this one. There's a lot to it, and yeah, I should probably chop it up, but maybe I'll do a part 1, part 2. But yeah, it's very important, I think, we start thinking about these things as we get more and more into NFT projects and developing them and purchasing them and what we're going to see in the future. So I hope this helps. And until we talk next time, I hope to have a project for you. I think it's going to be Moonwhips is going to be the project that I'm going to be talking about. So you can go start checking them out. And I'll maybe see you out there on the Discord. Oh, a couple of things real quick. So Rancid Royalties pushed their project out a week. So it's now going to be a week later. And the Tenacious Tigers, they had their pre-sale and public sale. So congratulations to them. They had their reveal. They haven't sold out yet, so you can still go and mint yours. But I wanted to congratulate them for their hard work and that they successfully launched their project. So great job out there. And looking forward to the Rancid Royals doing their drop out on, well, now it's a week later. So I'll put the date of the new drop in my descriptions. So other than that, I wanted to say thank you for watching if you watched this far. And until next time, I will talk to you on next Monday, which is the 8th. See ya.